This is Casper the cat. Casper has some very bad habits. Casper likes to write graffiti on the walls. He cuts school almost every day. Sometimes he hangs out with his friends and they start trouble with other kids in the neighborhood. But the thing Casper liked to do the most was to play his saxophone. He has been playing for a long time. One day, Casper was in front of his building. He picked up his saxophone and began to play just as a pastor came up to him.
Wow, you are really good. Isn't it amazing how God gives us talents?
The pastor said. Casper stopped playing.
What?
God gave you that talent. Didn't you know that?
Casper never thought about that before. He always knew there was a God, but he never thought God gave him the ability to play the saxophone. Casper and the pastor talked for a long time. At the end of the conversation, the pastor asked Casper if he wanted to give his life to God. Casper said yes. That day, Casper prayed and asked Jesus into his heart. The pastor told him,
Now that you have asked Jesus into your heart, you must live the life God wants you to live.
What kind of life is that?
asked Casper. The pastor said,
Freedom is the life God wants you to live. God wants you to be free to love Him. God wants you to be free to worship Him. God doesn't want you to be controlled by anything.
Here is the line. On this side of the line is the life you used to live. And on this side of the line, you have to give God your complete life, and God gives you the freedom to live the life that He wants you to live.
Casper needed some time to think, so he went outside and sat on a trash can. He thought about what the pastor said about living the life God wanted him to live. He thought about how hard it would be to tell his friends that he was living for Jesus now, and how hard it would be to be different.
Maybe you've asked Jesus into your heart too, but you know if you tell people that you're living for Jesus now, they would make fun of you. If you're afraid of what people think, then you're being controlled, and that's not the life that God wants you to live. Freedom is the life that God wants you to live, free to live for Him no matter what anyone thinks.
The next day, Casper was hanging out and his friends came to him with a plan. They had some cans of spray paint, and they said,
Hey, Casper, you want to come with us? We're going to spray paint this one building.
Which building?
Casper asked.
The church down the block.
Casper knew that was a bad idea. That was the church of the pastor that he prayed with yesterday. Casper had a choice to make. Was he going to live the life God wanted him to live, or was he going to be controlled by what's popular? Casper made his choice. He was going to go join his friends. Casper and his friends sprayed the church walls with graffiti. Casper felt bad, but what could he do? All his friends were doing it. The pastor came that afternoon to speak to Casper.
What have you and your friends done to our church?
Don't worry, it will come off.
Casper said, trying not to look at the pastor. The pastor stopped for a moment and asked Casper,
Do you think that is the life that God wants you to live?
Casper yelled back at the pastor.
All my friends were doing it.
But I told you, you are free from that. You don't have to be controlled by what's popular.
Some of you do things because it's popular. Maybe you curse because your friends do it, or you fight because that's what everyone does, or you may listen to bad music because that's what everyone listens to. You are controlled by what's popular. It's more important for you to follow what everyone else is doing than to live the life God wants you to live. But today, we want you to know that you are free from being controlled by what's popular. You are free to live the life that God wants you to live. Casper said that he would live for God, but the truth is, he was still on this side of the line. Casper hadn't crossed the line yet. He wasn't free to live for God even when it wasn't popular.
Casper couldn't help but feel bad for what he and his friends did to the pastor's church. Later that night, he tried calling the pastor to apologize, but no one picked up the church phone. Casper thought,
I'll try again tomorrow.
A lot of times we feel sorry for the things that we do, but we don't change. It's not enough to just feel bad. We must choose to live the life that God wants us to live.
The next day, Casper went outside and the sun was shining. He was supposed to call the pastor and apologize, but he thought,
Oh, forget about it. Graffiti isn't a big deal anyway.
He grabbed his saxophone and started to play. He played and played until he got bored, and then he thought,
What should I do now?
he decided to do the one thing he does best. He grabbed a can of spray paint and looked for a building to graffiti. He could not get over that bad habit.
Casper was controlled by his habits. Although he felt bad yesterday, he can't stop doing it. What habits are controlling you? Do you always get angry and lose your temper? Is greed controlling you and you have to steal? Is lying controlling you? This habit is stopping Casper from living the life that God wants him to live. In the same way, there are habits stopping you from living the life that God wants you to live. Ask God to free you from those habits so that you can live the life that God wants you to live.
Casper was spraying this one building when a big storm hit. It started to snow very hard, and before Casper could make it halfway home, there was 2 feet of snow. It was so cold, Casper had to find a place to get warm and get out of the snow. All he saw was a trash can. He picked up the lid and jumped inside. The wind got loud and unbearable. It was freezing. It was like cold steel around him. There was no heat to be found. Ice began to fill the cold steel trash can. Casper was shivering and shaking. It was miserable. Casper began to think,
Why did I have to graffiti that building? Why did I just listen to the pastor when he told me to live the life that God wants me to live?
all these thoughts ran through his head. The next day, the pastor and some church members went through the community shoveling snow and cleaning the trash after the storm. And as the pastor was throwing some of the trash away, he opened the lid to a trash can, and he couldn't believe what he saw. There was Casper's frozen body in the trash can. The pastor started to cry. He remembered his conversation with Casper when he told him to live the life that God wanted him to live. But now it was too late. Casper never crossed over to God's side of the line. The end.